always am excited to get my feet in the sand, feel the ocean on my body, be in the sun, and just be thriving. I think it's that Leo energy.
Yeah. I'm an Aries, so a lot of fire.
Yeah. So, what's giving you joy today?
I think today I've really been blasting Jasmine Sullivan's Ho Tales, so that's been giving me joy this month, this summer, and I'm just so excited to continue blasting her music. I love her so much.
I love Jasmine too. I went and saw her at House of Blues. Right now, I'm in my '90s house bag, listening to all '90s house thanks to Beyonce and Drake,
Mm.
resurrecting such a beautiful, happy, soft era. Today, joining us live on our show, we have Lisa Simmons of the Roxbury Film Festival in their 24th year holding space for Black film and Black filmmakers. People like Matthew Cherry and Ava DuVernay have gotten, opportunities and been able to come through the Roxbury Film Festival before going off to become who we know them to be. Lisa is a pillar in the community. I'm so excited. And as we celebrate Black Music Month and Black Pride Month, we have a beautiful show ahead of us. You want to tell the people a little bit about who else we have coming on the show today?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have like a little bit of like what we're calling like a Black Pride Month summit, and so we have like so many amazing people. We have Julia Golden of Trans Resistance. We have Quincy Roberts of the mayor's office. We have Harold Stewart, Leo Tyson, and we also have, just to wrap up our little Black Music Month festivities. Ooh, we also have Candace Hoyes, who just released an EP last year. So maybe we can ask her a little bit about that. But yeah, like I'm super excited to hear from everyone. As always, it's going to be just a lot of conversation, a lot of lessons learned.
I'm having dog difficulties this morning. If you
No,
hear
you're good.
her, just know, it's that remote living life, and she's gonna do what she's gonna do. I think we hear our doorbell. We have Lisa pulling up to the chat. I'm very excited about this.
Me too. Honestly, it might be a little bit of fan service to like for us to see the dog at some point. So if she
Yeah,
comes on, I'll be
I'll have to take my background off so she can just, fully join us in all her glory.
back. Sean?
Lisa, are you on?
I am on. Sorry, it's I'm having computer issues, so I have on my mother's
No.
computer. So then I just, yeah, I'm here. You didn't know it was
There,
me.
there she goes.
Hi.
Hi, Lisa. Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning.
We are so excited to welcome you to the Black News Hour, the Boston Globe's exclusive radio show featuring Black voices of the Globe in the community. Thank you, Pastor Wall, for having us as usual. Um, I just am excited to be in partnership with BBN listeners and Pastor Wall, and just to even have Boston Black News Hour, and then to start this particular show off with the Lisa Simmons of the Roxbury Film Festival is
Mm.
such a beautiful thing. Honestly, I think this is part of what's given us joy as well.
Mm.
Um, you just opened the film festival last night.
Last night, I know it was amazing. Oh my gosh, I wish you could have been there. It was spiritual. It was incredible. It was about civil rights. It was about our rights. It was powerful.
Tell people about Rox Film Fest, which go to roxfilmfest.com to learn more, but tell everyone about Rox Film Fest and why you started it 24 years ago.
Wow. Do you have 4 hours? So yeah, I mean, it was started basically because we had local filmmakers in the Boston area who weren't getting into other festivals. So Candelaria Silva from Act Roxbury, they got a grant and they called us because we had just started a company called The Color Film, Mike Trent and I, to do this, to actually give them the opportunity to screen their films in front of a wider audience. I mean, there's nothing more empowering than to have something that you made be shown in public view. I mean, I think we all know that. It's amazing. So So that's really was the reason why Rox Film started. It started to support these local filmmakers who were making films that were outside of the Hollywood stereotype, right? So they weren't getting into other festivals because it's like, well, this isn't an urban drama. Like, we don't even know what to do with Black Love. We don't know what to do with experimental. You can't make things like that. Like, I don't know where to put you in because you're not fitting in my box. And so these were filmmakers that were making films outside of the box, and they continue to. 24 years later, we are all about outside of that box.
And oh, go ahead, Tiana.
No, I'm sorry. I guess I was just curious to know. I know like this is my first year in Boston. I'm still like just kind of like settling into the city, and I'm really excited. I came from like Austin, which is also like a really big film city. So I guess I was just like curious to know, Lisa. I guess like what can maybe like people expect at this year's like fest, and maybe like how does it compare to previous ones?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you can expect is what you can always really expect is to be engaged, to be impacted, to feel, to be educated, to feel empowered. It is really about celebrating people of color around the world. And, that means so many things. That means new cultures that we don't really know about. It means, last night we screened Remember Me, the Mahalia Jackson story. And I think, so many people in that audience know that Mahalia had a relationship with Dr. King, but to the extent of her relationship with Dr. King, and she was really his spiritual advisor. She sang to him on the night before he was assassinated. And so those are the types of things like we want to not only, tell other people who aren't Black or brown, but us ourselves to constantly be understanding the importance of history and the importance of, having these conversations and bringing in a younger generation. So I think, what you're going to expect to see, you're going to be blown away at the films that are there this year. And just the deep conversations around mental health, conversations around incarceration, conversations that we need to continually still having, and film and media has an opportunity to do that and to bring these issues to a wider audience. I mean, you're also going to laugh. I mean, there's some good films too.
There's always joy.
Always joy.
Lisa, something that I really want people who may not know to know is that not only are you screening films and creating this access, but there's also workshops and luncheons and actual career building opportunities that happen at the film festival. Can you talk a little bit about the education and networking piece of it for filmmakers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, really big part of independent film festivals is that you go there as an independent filmmaker to network. And we are a filmmakers festival. That's how we really call ourselves, and I think that's really important. So when people come, they can, go out to, a filmmaker hangout after a screening and just connect with each other filmmakers. That they can come to a workshop, an acting workshop. We're doing a business of acting workshop, how to get into that business here in Massachusetts. We're doing a workshop with Darian Gibson, who is the SAG Indie executive director, African American woman. She's been there for a while. I mean, just really making things happen. It's like, how do you use SAG actors? And I just think representation is really important. So we really want to get people out to come and meet her. She wants to meet filmmakers and actors in Boston. We have the Secret Society of Black Creatives. I don't know if you guys know them. They are an awesome new group that is really pulling together producers and writers and directors in the media space to come together once a month to have conversations. It's sort of like what the color of film was 24 years ago. So yeah, and I mean, I think it is important. I think that, last night we had a bunch of people over at Daryl's. Thank you, Nia, for, just, hanging out, talking, filmmakers meeting each other, audience members talking to filmmakers. And I think that you have to constantly have that conversation. That's all part of the validation of being an artist.
Yes, and shout out to Nia and Daryl's at all times. Nia Grace is beautiful. Nia, much like Lisa, and everyone who will be on the show today, is a space taker and space maker, always lifting as she climbs. So word to Daryl's. Something that I think is really radical that you do, Lisa, one of the many things actually, because you're just always making radical moves, but I think having a film festival at the MFA is a big deal, creating that access, creating that space, seeing Black people in mass in Black film and Black art on display in that space is a beautiful thing. I recently saw Issa Rae at the Kennedy Center do a takeover, and I feel like these types of events and ceremonies are important. Can you talk a little bit about that and why that's necessary?
I think it's really important. I mean, the museum has a beautiful, beautiful screen and a beautiful projector, and why shouldn't we be part of that, right? They have an incredible staff. Their media, their film staff, and then their visitor services staff has been amazing to us. 24 years we've been there. And I just think it's important. I think it's important for us to be able to walk in that space and say, we own this space. This is our space. And to bring people into that space so that they understand that is their space. And it's been one of the key points of remaining at the Museum of Fine Arts, because it is, again, we get down to that word about validation. Oftentimes you haven't seen your film on a big screen like that, and when you do, it is empowering to say, I am a filmmaker. I am making and creating media, and the whole world's going to see it up on this big screen, and my gosh, that's amazing. And so that's what we want. We want filmmakers to feel that way. We want them to feel really special. And so to use the MFA as that opportunity is great. I mean, we're at Hibernian Hall this year too, which is wonderful, and we're at Arts Emerson for the first time, which is really great too.
Sorry, I was giggling at the dog.
I know.
Peppermint Patty making her way.
Well, Lisa, I was also wondering, I know that you're a filmmaker yourself, and for people who may be tuning in who may not be knowing about the work that you're doing, can you talk a little bit more about the documentary you're working on and kind of what that process has been like?
It's a very long process. It's funny. I've done a couple of short films, and I've been working on this documentary about the Negro Theater in Boston from 1935 to 1939, which my grandfather was the stage manager, and my aunts and uncles were all writers and producers in the Negro Theater project during that time. And there's very little known of it. I mean, we know about it on the national level, but people don't understand Boston has this rich history of Black arts. Maud Cooney hair. I mean, there was a lot going on in the 30s and the 20s and the 30s here in Massachusetts and in Boston. So at some point I'll get that done. It's been a really long time, and I feel like it's an ode to my mom and my grandfather to get that done, to tell that history, because it's really important. So yeah, I mean, I think that if my thing is that you just keep going on. Films take a long time to make, stories take a long time to craft and pull together, and don't give up on it. We need these histories, we need these stories told. So at some point in time, I'll get that done. I mean, one of the great things also about Rox Film is we do this thing called daily script read, where local writers are get their scripts read by local actors. It happens every day every weekday at noon. So there's one today at noon. And so they've been pestering me and my crew about putting a script in. So I did that. So
I love that. Lisa, I'm so excited we were able to be in community with you today. I'm excited for the 24th year of the Rox Film Fest, and I can't wait for us to do something big for year 25.
I'm so excited about that.
Yes. Everybody, please go to roxfilmfest.com and support the film festival this weekend at the MFA at Emerson at Hibernian Hall. Lisa, have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and week, and we will be seeing you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you. We will see you soon.
Having a film festival is so important, and we also have the American Black Film Festival. Tiana, you want to tell the folks a little bit about that?
Yeah, you're talking about the American Black Film Fest.
Yes, the Boston Globe's a proud sponsor of the 26th American Black Film Festival.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my God. I lost my
It's fine.
I lost my
You can sign up for a virtual pass to enjoy independent films, talk events, best of ABFF awards, and spotlight screenings, including a special screening of A Beautiful Resistance, an exclusive Q&A with me, Janae Osterheld, and you go to abff.com for more information, just like you go to roxfilmfest.com for more information about that. And I believe we have 4 illustrious guests in the waiting room that we can start to admit. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you so much for catching that for me. I lost my spot on the script.
Listen, we are in this together. I'm so excited to see Bayo Powder, Julia Golden, Quincy J. Roberts Sr., and the always, always lovely Harold Stewart, who has been so gracious to continuously be in community with us.
Good morning,
you.
y'all.
Thank you. Good morning,
Good
everyone.
Good morning, everybody. Quincy is serving as the inaugural executive director for the mayor's office LGBTQ plus advancement. Julia Golden is the interim president of Trans Resistance MA. Bayo Powder co-founded Trailblazers and Back Bay Broad Run, which is, I believe, just going to be called something else. She'll tell us more about that. Harold Stewart is the director of Theater Offensive. And Harold also has created entire philosophies and frameworks that we'll talk about today. But I'm just like super excited to really be in community with all of you today. Thank you for being here. And we would, as we celebrate Pride Month and just celebrate being Black, beautiful, and our authentic selves, Tiana and I would love for you all to tell us what gives you joy today. Bayo, you want to start?
I think what's giving me joy today is community. The community that I'm a part of, the community that I'm creating, and the unfolding of the support that comes with that. That's what's giving me joy today.
It's beautiful. Quincy, do you want to go next? I see you're unmuted.
I'll go. What's bringing me joy is this conversation. Then today is our last day kindergarten, so we're excited.
Quincy, we're losing. Is anyone else losing Quincy?
Yeah, I also lost audio.
Quincy, we're losing you. You're on audio.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
It's a little choppy.
But this conversation is bringing me joy.
All right, there we go. There we go. Julia.
Well, tomorrow is the Trans Resistance March, June 25th. And I think, there are a lot of people who didn't necessarily want this march or expect this march was going to be able to happen. And so this is the third year of the march and the second year of festival. And so what's bringing me joy is building inclusive spaces with community, especially when people said it couldn't be done. We're here, we're doing it.
Harold.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So glad to be here. I think likewise, I moved to Boston about 5 years ago with this question of like, what's possible in queer and trans community here, what already exists, and what will we have to like navigate? Like, how do you, as an outsider wanting to definitely add to a community vision and not, take away from it, watching a dominant ideas around pride dissolve, one kind of singular parade for more expansive community expression. So I think this year there's more pride activities that one can keep up with, which I think is a beautiful thing. A lot of them sourced from the origins of community organizations like Trans Resistance. So hopefully, this kind of energy continues. So pride and queer lives, especially Black queer lives, could be seen in an expansive way, in a self-determined way, and not always having to come under, somebody else's thoughts and ideas and associations with pride and activities.
Harold, I'm so glad you brought that up because I think this is a great time to have us all talk about and hear you all talk about why it is important we create space specifically for Black queer lives and why it is necessary that, we resist and fight against the whitewashing that continuously happens during Pride and 365 all year around why it's necessary that we look at this more inclusively. I personally was incredibly excited that during Juneteenth and Pride at the same time. We had Beyonce and Drake resurrecting 90s house. And I was like, neither one of them is actually saying anything about Pride and Juneteenth, but it sounds like Pride and Juneteenth to me. So, but I would love to hear all of you. Quincy, I think, with you in your new role, I think it'd be great to hear you chime in about this, and then everyone else can. I want this to be a conversation, so just chime in as you feel moved in your spirit.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Are we good? All right. Sorry about that. I'm having a wonky internet. But I go back to what you just said, the 365. That's something that I've been preaching, and Harold knows this, for about 9 years in City Hall. It's been an interesting journey for me, being one of the few openly queer folks in City Hall and city government. So being celebrated and not tolerated throughout the year is very, very important to me. And that's something that I'm going to preach, and you're going to hear me say over and over and over. And Harold brought this up as well. I've been to 32 events from June 1st to today. And then I have 3 events today. So yeah, we don't have that foot on the ground, marching down Boylston, past all the expensive designer shops. But we do have this sense of community. And my good friend Trey Andre said this about 2 weeks ago. It's all about connection. And for me, going to these events, seeing people roll their sleeves up and do what they need to do to find joy has just been so exciting. And I do want to say this last thing before I pass the mic. Being from Henderson, North Carolina, and being able to lead this historic department is just like heaven sent to me. So I appreciate this platform, and I just look forward to working with everybody that's listening and watching this, that want to continue this, because June is just 1 month and I want us to be celebrated. I can't repeat this enough, every single day. So thank you again, and I'll just pass the mic to whoever else wants to chime in.
I always love to talk, so y'all gonna have to I will
Love to hear.
Self-monitor myself, especially, I like to think of myself as a critical thinker. So I love to be in critical thought. So I live for moments like this. So again, I think my gratitude is about this moment. For me, I think it's important because, pride as a concept, right? I think, or pride as a branding kind of deal. So if we unpack what is pride, right? And who gets to have it and who kind of orchestrated it, there's not a day of my life that I cannot think about Black people and queer people not operating from a space of something called pride, right? I think it's the thing that has been transgressive about all of us, right? You don't get up, you don't fight, you don't stand in the face of violence because you're not proud of who you are, or you're not proud of the ways in which you're trying to find self, even if the world doesn't agree, right? So that transgressive nature about being proud and activating pride is in our DNA. I think also in this moment where we're looking at so many pandemics on top of each other, what we know, and I guess what the world is really, what's undeniable to the world now is that everybody has a relationship to Blackness and everybody has a relationship to queerness, right? As you just mentioned, the Beyonce, Jay-Z house music. So a lot of it goes unrecognized, but we understand it, right? And we know, if you're doing house today, then what should we be doing today? So you can catch up with us, or we can kind of continue to move cultures forward. So I think it's critical. I think, I actually work for a queer and trans people of color organization where we often have to think about what is the most expansive way to think about people of color, and why is there so much Black investment? And I go back to, when you show me something in this world that doesn't have a relationship to Blackness and does not have a relationship to queerness, and we'll try to balance those things out. But right now, as the world stands, hip hop is global, right? Hip hop is queer, and everything else I think that has been exciting and transformative about this world is rooted in Blackness, what has become Blackness, right? But an African sense of being and queerness, whether it's who I sleep with, how many people I sleep with, or who I love and how many people I love, or the group of folks who are so bold that they would make sure that this world is non-normative until it becomes something else and becomes non-normative again.
Bayo, Julia, one of you want to chime in and talk about pride and what it means to you?
Sure. I think that there's two things here. I always say that I'm an interim president of Trans Resistance. There's a very specific reason I say that. It's because I truly believe that our organization needs to be led by Black trans women. And I feel that it's my duty to help create a space, help keep the organization afloat. But one of our biggest pieces that we're doing right now is fundraising for a stipend so that a Black trans woman, when this position's ready, that woman can also be paid and compensated for the emotional labor and all of the other appearances that are made in behalf of trans resistance. So I think what's important as a non-Black person is understanding yourself, the fact that the privilege of your pride, and then thinking about what is anti-Blackness? How has that played into your life? And how do you overcome that? Because I think a lot of leaders want to believe they're doing their best and doing what is best for people, but they often get in the way of the voices that really need to be heard. And I think that we would all do a lot better as leaders if we took a moment to say, am I centering and highlighting the voices that need to be here at the table, and bump the table? Like I want tables, I want all the chairs, and I want to make sure that we create pathways that are true to our Black trans queer siblings, because the truth is they've been here. They've been here in Boston. They've been here throughout history. And it's important to recognize trans resistance is not new to this. We're true to this. And I think that we really have this march and festival tomorrow to share some of that joy with others.
Julia, can you give people the start time and where they can find more information about the march so they know how to
Absolutely. If you go to transresistance.com. All the information is on our website, on our social media as well. Our Instagram page is pretty awesome, so it has a lot of information. We'll be meeting at 11 o'clock at Cedar Park, and that's where the march starts. But we actually march all the way to Franklin Park, and that's where the festival takes off. And again, all the performers, entertainers are trans, queer, BIPOC individuals. The majority of what we're asking people when we've been fundraising for is to make sure all these artists are compensated fairly. It's really important that we not ask for people to entertain for free. We wanted to make sure all artists were compensated. That's actually one of the biggest costs for this. And I'm really proud to say that's now covered and been paid for. So we're really, really excited for tomorrow.
And Bayo is a person who inspires me all the time, being her authentic self. And as a member of Trailblazers, if she's a run group for women in femmes, as Bayo, I just adore you and want you to come on and talk about it. I want everyone to get to know you. Don't be quiet in this conversation.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone on this panel. Full disclaimer, I am so nervous and also so thrilled to be here and to speak and be in conversation with y'all. Pride is what that means to me. It's something that's been a part of my journey for a while, but it's something that I am newly stepping into and embracing and, empowering myself and being my authentic self and inspiring others to do the same. And so with Trailblazers Run Co, we serve, it's an all-female, all femme, non-binary community where we serve our runners, but it's more than just running. It's taking a holistic approach and taking care of our community, empowering our community, having them, not just leading them, but having them lead alongside us in order to create the change that we want to see out there. So that is what pride means to me.
Oh, don't be shy. You're so amazing. Oh my God. Don't be
If
nervous.
if
Like,
you all saw Beo out in the community on her bike with a big boombox cheering us on when we run, or running the mini marathon she runs,
yeah.
or like giving prayer over us, like she's such a powerful, powerful voice and just a powerhouse in herself.
Yeah.
I
Um,
appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'm like curious to know if people want to be involved in what you do or in Trailblazers, like how can they join or where should they go?
So we're everywhere. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Trailblazers, Run Kobe, have a website. We also are on the Halo app, which is like a RSVP site to keep people in the loop who, if social media is not your thing, no worries. We got you covered. But we have our annual event, which is actually coming up July 17th, called the Bra Run. And that is a body positive movement of, F society standards of what a woman, what a non binary person should look like in the world of fitness. We are moving our bodies, we are moving freely. And that is part of pride. That is part of Black joy. That is part of showing up for ourselves and showing up for one another. So we're really excited to be celebrating our 5th year next month.
and hopefully a beautiful resistance will be able to be in community with them. We've been
Yes.
trying to work this out. Just so our audience is clear, it's Trailblazers, TrailblazersRunco.com. And I want to pivot a little bit because while we're talking about Black Pride, we're also talking about Black music. It's
Mhm.
Black Music Month, and you can't talk about Black Music Month without talking about Black queer people. And not to get on Beyonce and Drake, but I want people to know about house music culture, uh, and what it means, the space it created. And I don't want people to get erased as this happens, because we know what happens next with Beyonce and Drake, pulling out 90s house and Chicago house, as well as Baltimore house, because Baltimore house is getting left out the conversation. But I want to talk about how we make sure who started it, the space it was created for, the people that were there don't get erased, and the music and sounds that mean so much to all of you, because music is an integral part to how we protest and how we show up. And Harold, let's start with you, because Harold creates frameworks.
Right. Queer Black aesthetic. Like, I'd love to hear a little bit
Yes.
more about that,
Yeah,
especially coming from
about
Dallas.
the queer Black aesthetic.
I'm another Texan, so when I saw you were from Dallas, I was like, okay.
Yeah, this love, it's too much on a Friday morning at 8:34, but I'm gonna take it all. I'm gonna take it all. I may need it by 9:30 on Friday. So no, I appreciate it. And I am a strategist. I love being a strategist. It's kind of like, the nerdy kid who has a science kit in his room and loves having science kits in his. I love strategizing, which, I'm perpetually single because of that. Even in a place like Boston, I was like, I thought the other Black queer nerds were here. So holla, we can strategize. I think for me, and while, I wouldn't dare name names or history about house because I think it has this organic origins, right? Of people responding, because when I think house, I think more of a embodied aesthetic, right? So definitely there were people and Black people and queer people who gave us a fresh sound, a new sound, an innovative sound to kind of move to and groove to. But the beauty of Black culture, especially when it becomes a authentic Renaissance moment, right? It changes the way we dress. It changes our politics, everything we say. So I often theorize that and give away some Black secrets because, Black power can't be contained and it can be imitated, right? That's what makes Adele the best imitation of a soul singer, but never a soul singer, because there's places that she would never be able to go, right? Her soul is built different, right? Her technology is built different. So I think for me, what I theorize is that if you really want to understand where Black culture is going, whether you're there or not, let film folks change their hair and let us change the music of a new generation, right? Then that like we're moving forward. So I think House definitely did that, but it gave people an embodied experience, right? So it's really hard to talk about house music, and I think about house dance, and I'd even think about, like balloon paint, like all the things that made that aesthetic come to life. So I love that it's, I don't even know if it's like back in vogue or ever went out of, I mean, I'm not sure what the objectives are between Beyonce and Drake, but, a full exploration of Black culture through music and everything is always welcome, right? I think there's a certain amount of responsibility. And I don't know why you set me up for the Beehive to just really, really comfort me. But, one can do a dissertation and write a book around the Black queer aesthetic and its influence and intersections with Beyonce. Drake, it may be new or maybe not as obvious, but again, I believe Beyonce loves a Black queer politic.
Drake is wearing braids and bobos right now.
Okay.
Does anyone want to pop in on music and Pride?
Yeah, because Quincy, I know I got Prince in the back. I know.
Yeah, I'm looking at Prince in the back of Quincy.
Right.
I'm listening to the conversation, and a lot like her, I don't want the Beehive to come for me. I don't listen to Beyonce, but I'm writing the artists that I enjoy that are queer or queer adjacent. So I'm a type of Tyler, the Creator, Isaiah Rashad, Frank Ocean. That's my type of music. So I just want to lift them up in that space. And before we move any further, I want to lift Big Freedia up because they have sampled Big Freedia so much. And I don't want her to get erased from this conversation as well. So we just want to lift those artists that people are sampling and using and trying to benefit off their success. But yeah, I'm a Tyler Creator type of music person. And of course, I got Prince in the background. Prince is my favorite artist. That's when I knew I was gay, just watching Purple Rain and him performing Darling Nikki. And my mom was like, yeah, don't say that, because I said I love him at the old age of 8 years old. So yeah, my mom was like, nah, that's a no-go. So yeah, my music is all over the place. I'm also a big gospel person. Believe it or not, I listen to gospel while I'm working out. Not because I'm religious, but it's soothing to me. It's more inspirational. And as soon as I hear something homophobic, I just never listen to that artist ever again. So yeah, that's my music taste. Music makes the world go round. I say music is life because it's integrated in everything that we do. So yeah, I just wanted to lift those queer artists or queer adjacent, because I don't want to out anyone because no one has formally come out, but their music is very, it aligns in how I operate in life.
Listen, you speaking my love language with Tyler, the Creator, and Big Freedia. So my love language is activated. Bayo does not get to act shy here because Bayo literally rides alongside runners with a loud speaker booming music. And when it was negative outside and snowing, she literally created a Caribbean festival vibe, and it was snowing on us. She had me. I looked like a snow princess, and she had me out there just winding.
It was most definitely carnival. But just to speak to the point of giving the credit where it's due, I mean, when as far as the conversation of music goes, it always has been and always will be rooted in Blackness and queerness. And so when people are like, oh, this just came out, it's been here. What are we talking about? What are you talking about? Rock and roll is, white or whatever. Did you know that the guitar came from the griot, which came from Africa? What are we talking about? So, sometimes you got to give those little nudges, those little reminders, and sometimes you have to be loud about it. And with the music and integrating that with running and uplifting the community, sometimes you have to do that, and that's more than okay.
I was gonna say, I think.
Go ahead, Julia.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, I think artists like Big Freedia too, as well as people like Beyonce, but also Drake. I mean, a lot of different artists, mainstream, and yet is rarely given the credit for being on these tracks. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's the hype part of a song, and that's great. But I think it's important that it's at some point, some of these artists also recognize in what ways are they maybe highlighting, in other ways are they using that type of culture that isn't theirs for their songs and maybe profiting off of it. And I think those are themes that I think happen a lot in our communities where, queer, trans people of color are kind of coined as having something extra, and maybe we're used for that. And I think, especially with the history of it being a race too, is really tricky. So I appreciate all of us kind of uplifting artists who are queer adjacent, because I think it's so important that we name those artists and also give them credit for what they're doing, so that we recognize this isn't new. It's been happening. And I'm excited to see other artists come through because of someone like Big Frida on a mainstream track. I think it's going to lead a pathway for other artists to come out.
We intentionally created this softness and a soft space to talk about music and joy and pride, because we often talk about it through the lens of brutality and suffering. But we don't want to end this conversation without talking about the justice work, the funding, and all of the other necessary aspects. I know TTO was one of the Mackenzie Scott beneficiaries, with Quincy taking his new role. The work that's being done at Trans Resistance, that's been being done at Trans Resistance, and Trailblazers as well. I would love to give you all space to talk about the justice work that is necessary in the community.
I'll go first, since I'm representing the city and my colleagues of Boston Police. So for me, what we're trying to do, I'll get rid of that word trying. What we're going to do is start to have these difficult conversations with the police, which behind the scenes, we have been trying to bridge the divide between grassroots organizations and the Boston Police. So one of my many priorities for this calendar year is to have the police do a better job of articulating the resources that they have and some of the new policies that they've put forward, because they are all wonderful policies. And we just want to make sure that everybody knows what's going on, as well as improvement with Boston Police. No one's going to be perfect. I'm not going to sit up here and say that in a year, the police will be the best people to deal with. But what I am saying is just give us grace, because I'm here now, and everyone who knows me knows that I love a difficult conversation. I don't mind having those difficult conversations, but I also want to put action behind those conversations, because we, as you said, Trans Resistance, Trans Emergency Fund, Boston Glass, Bagley, you name it. We've been having these conversations, but now it's time to take those conversations and put some action behind that. So I'm excited to be on this platform. I'm excited to be your executive director for LGBTQ plus advancement, and we will move forward with all of the community. So if you want to have input on the things that I'm doing in my office, please reach out to me, boston.gov/LGBTQ. We have a survey, because we are really, really adamant about getting out of City Hall. And Mayor Wu is really, really adamant about making sure that the community leads what I do. All right. So really thankful for Boston Globe. Thankful for everyone on this call. Please continue to reach out, and please continue to hold me accountable. Harold will tell you, I will give anybody my phone number. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I will give anyone my phone number, because I do want to be accessible with respect, of course. I do have a family, but I do want to be a resource for all queer people in the city of Boston. So thank you.
I can say, you mentioned the Mackenzie Scott gift, and these investments, I think, in our mission and what we're doing, and the kind of larger vision of the organization, which has been transformative for the organization. I think it has pushed us to be, and I say this with a lot of pride, and I also say it because I know this world can do better. right? That the Theater Offensive is the largest theater in the world owned and operated by queer and trans people of color, by staff size, by budget size. And pretty soon, we're going to have a facility in the Fenway come hell or high water or market inflations and drywall continue to go up that, started as a $15 million project. It continues to grow in its price. But Janae, you cousin, have access to me in ways that people at the Globe don't, because of the relationship that I think and the support that we have to show each other, even if the containers that we exist in are not always as transgressive as we want to be. So what does it mean when a Black woman shows up to the Globe in a different way? I think it shifts the conversation. And so I say all that to say I'm really proud to announce here on this platform, and I just found out last week, and while the donor has to remain anonymous, that, Mackenzie Scott gave us $3 million last year, and we got a call last week from a major foundation and donor. We'll get $3.5 million for them towards our efforts, which, if you know me personally, and if you know the Theater Offensive, we're really queer, we're really Black, we believe in the wealth of the ratchet, we believe, so these kind of investments, because we largely have not compromised our values. And we've said, we've set a goal and we'll reach that goal with people who want to do it with us. So it's major. I think in terms of, the real delicate dance and balance between pride as a political agenda to oppressive actions in people and communities, and pride as a place to be celebrated, to be seen, and to find joy in community. We have to remember the thing that most of us associate with pride really is connected to trans women, trans women of color, including Black trans women. When I hear the story, people who were closest to Marsha say, her and Sylvia oftentimes would, allow the other person to take the credit, right? That they wouldn't own the credit, which I also think is a beautiful thing in community. Who threw the brick, who threw the fist, who, all of that. And, it's like, let's throw it back and forth. And so that the history books may not never know the truth, but they'll never forget that it could have been one of us or maybe another person, which I think is a beautiful way to have that kind of history. It goes against a white history where you have to name every specific detail in order for it to be valid. So I say that for me, pride, it was a party after a protest, right? That really was connected to taking action, taking community back into our own hands. I think that has to continue. And we need to continue to have that balance. And finally, what I'll say in relationship to having major investments in the organization and continuing to be a place where people invest mightily. And we see that at the Theater Offensive as like, our responsibility has grown. We need to be a resourceful organization, right? If people have entrusted us with these type of resources. And so I say to Julia, holla at us, right? We were able to aid in artist stipend. That's our sweet spot. Like last year for Trans Resistance, and we can operate from a place of love. We don't have to try say what happened and why we're not there this year. I think we're here today. So if there's other ideas and themes and visions that you have for this march and the financial reality hasn't been met, holla at me. I want to say that. And to Bio, the same thing. We would love to be in community because we have joy and wellness programs, right? So we don't want to hoard these resources, right? We want to make sure that they're going back to the people who, extend our mission and our work and do it in beautiful ways. And for whatever reason, the people that see us have not seen them yet and trust us to make sure that, over $6.5 million goes back into a local ecology of beautiful folks and beautiful ideas.
Harold, I am loving seeing this. I'm loving seeing this community and seeing all of you be in community with each other. I definitely want to have Julia and Bayo close us out. I want to have this conversation longer, which just means Harold and I are going to have to get together and create a different community conversation, not limited to an hour, but we have one more guest we still have to get on today. So if we could close out with Julia and Bayo, and Tiana will take us away. Thank you all for being in community with us today. Also, wait, Harold, throw them the Theater Offensive website right quick.
The theateroffensive.org, or if that's too much, ttoboston.org.
So the best part about Trans Resistance March this Saturday, as we found out last night, is fully funded. Everything, we had a 70K goal. We got 20K just in donations of resources, and 50K was raised in money. Between two, we're really excited the fact that our Trans Joy Fund is now complete. Y'all are the first to hear that publicly, so we're excited. When we look at the three funds that we have at Trans Resistance, it's Trans Joy Fund, the Trans Leadership Fund, and the Trans Community Fund. So every single dollar raised tomorrow are going towards the Trans Leadership and Community Funds, because I think that one of the biggest things that Quincy mentioned is this is not a one-time-a-year event or a moment. This is a movement. We'll be going out throughout the year. So for all the organizations that we didn't necessarily even get to collaborate with this month, we will definitely be talking with you, Harold, and others, because we know with our leadership fund, we intend to create leadership tracks for trans non-binary people and collaborate with other nonprofits that are already doing that work. It's important that we not just take those ideas, but we collaborate with those who are already doing that work. And then we're also trying to make sure that we have a community fund where any community programming can happen that includes grants for our community, meaning they can apply and say they have a program they want to put on for our community. We will sponsor that event. So more information will come after the March on both of those funds. But again, I think what we really need to center with Trans Resistance is understanding that when Black trans women are put front and when they are safe, we are all safe. And so we're so excited to be able to promote at that March the very safety of Black trans women.
Thank you. Bayo, did you have anything you wanted to add before we bring on the lovely Candace Hoyes? All right, thank you all for joining us today. And Candace, welcome to the conversation.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you so much for being patient with us. Candace, I'm so excited to have you here today. For people who may not know, Candace is just a little bit of everything. And I know that last year you released your EP, Blue Lagoon Woman. And just for some context, I know that you've worked with people ranging from like the amazing Shaka Khan, Lin-Manuel Miranda, like so many amazing people. And you also have some like little Boston ties. I know you went to Harvard in undergrad and did sociology and African American studies. So thank you so much for being here on the show and just sharing space with us today.
Thank you. I can't imagine a better program to be on, and I love reading and following the coverage online that comes out of both of you, and I think it's really important to build the community. But good morning. Thank you for having me. Start there.
I know we only have like a few minutes left, but I guess I just wanted to ask, because when I was listening to your EP, it just took me in so many different directions. Like I heard like Sisters with Voices a little bit, I heard jazz. It was just, there were so many, like, I guess like Black music inspirations kind of coalescing into one. And I just thought it was a beautiful mixture of that. For people who may not have listened, I guess I just wanted to hear like from you, what's your inspiration behind that EP, or what kind of led to the final product we got?
I'd say my whole musical, reason and my inspiration, my chief inspiration is storytelling. And as you mentioned, the sort of breadth of my background as an archivist, a historian, a musician, I would say it all dates back to like not only my piano lessons when I was 6, but also just a passion for literature and storytelling. My parents are from Jamaica, and I think even though we grew up, really assimilating so much into mainstream American culture, as we all are compelled to do, there was a really vivid home life that was infused with Afro-Caribbean culture, folklore. I mean, even my bedtime stories, my mom would, sprinkle in Anansi stories, which are from West Africa. the food, the music, all of my most vivid, intimate memories are centered on that experience. And so I wanted to, having been through, I still perform across many genres. My musical training is in classical voice. And I started that at Harvard. I got a fellowship and I studied at Boston Conservatory. So I did have some various experiences in the Boston community and in the music community there. And I wanted to, yes, you will hear strains of different things, but I really wanted to center this particular release and the way that I wrote for it and produced the piece around Black intimate life. And so much also about, named it Blue Lagoon. And by that I mean like the barbecue. This is music for your summer. So I'm glad it came out at the end of the year, but I'm so glad that I get to share it with everyone on Black News Hour now, because I think it's a perfect soundtrack for your summer. It's for those spaces, the easy spaces, the expansive spaces, the outdoor spaces, the basement parties, for riding in your car. I think that those are the moments that sustain me as a child and continue to sustain us as a people. You will hear, as I said, different strains, but I think it's really inspired by like also the music I heard my parents playing growing up: Minnie Riperton, Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, really soulful sounds. And then some of the sounds, there's a cover of Rain on there. And there's a link to the music video for y'all to check it out. But I think it's a kind of Afro, well, as people have written about it, like it was featured, actually, this is quite notable and exciting for me. It was featured in the Afrofuturism curation at Carnegie Hall this year. And they described it as an, Blue Lagoon Woman as an aspect of Afrofuturism, which is a huge, honor for me as a literary buff. But I cover Rain by SWV, which is a song that like I find always an interesting moment in my personal journey, as I didn't really know.
Candace, that is a song of my
Yes.
adolescent, like.
Exactly. And yet I sort of didn't know that it was a metaphor for what at the time, but now I get it. It's like,
I just feel like you should sing us out if you feel like it with some Rain.
Sure.
We have just enough time to tell everyone where to find your music. Like, first, find us at globe.com/Black News Hour. Me and Tiana have been so happy to be in community with everyone today. We'll be back on July 15th. Tell everyone where they can find your music and you.
sure. So sometimes it's soft as a misty rain that gently touches my soul. It cools a fire that burns in me, and I simply lose control.
Oh my God.
I got goosebumps.
I'm ready to like, I'm getting my
Exactly.
Black girl body roll going.
I know. Listen, can I quote that? That is pretty much the point of the EP. Blue Lagoon Woman is for the body roll.
It's soft girl.
Yeah, because one of your songs.
Soft girl summer.
Tell us where to find tell everyone where they could follow you and where to find you.
So it's out now, and you can listen to it on Spotify. The video for Rain is on YouTube. Instagram, I'm Candice with an I, so Candice. Last name Hoyes, Hoyes. And I'll be playing at Jazz at Lincoln Center in July, and the Schomburg Center in August. So if you follow me, you can get my whole calendar. And I was on WNYC last night.
Great.
That broadcast is up. So I'm just excited to be here with the Globe and with Black News Hour. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I'm Jay.
I'm Tiana Woodard, and you're listening to or tuning out
Black News
for Black
Hour.
Hour.
We'll see you next month, July 15th. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye,
Thanks for having me.
Candice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you all.
Recording stopped. And we're done. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.